Let's create the edgiest grimderp fantasy setting possible. I want to see how far we can go in sheer stupidity. Let your inner edgy screaming teenager speak.
Finally cut my life into pieces.
I was say, like, either that or Break Stuff is just the anthem for this world.
Pretty
the
much.
national anthem.
Yeah, it would be.
Everybody wears backwards baseball caps.
Oh god, that was a horrible
and
time.
DC shoes.
Oh no.
All children are conceived through Rapy in some way or another. Also, for some reason, everything reproduces in traumatic insemination like bed bugs.
Yeah, definitely. You need to ramp that up actually a bit. Mm-hmm. I think if you want to make it like over the top grim derp, yeah, it needs.
Wait, how do bed bugs reproduce?
I don't know, and it's one of those things I'd rather not know.
I'm gonna
fine, let's look it up. So we looked into it, and it's worse than what you think it is. So essentially, the male bedbug stabs the female one with his member, and
like opens her up
and jizzes.
Like it's a wound.
Yeah,
jizzes in her wound,
and then
she like the jizz goes to her ovaries, and she like becomes pregnant. But then she's walking about with like a festering wound, and after she gives birth.
That sounds pretty grim derp. That's
really
grim derp. That's actually more grim derp than what it has to be.
I didn't know bedbugs were such savages.
I know.
For starters, the god or goddesses of humans was either Rap or is a rapist, and the children begat of this are human. Let's start it off right.
I mean, is that not the Greek one where Gaia was... So, I can't remember, I think it was Kronos. Kronos might be the one that actually did it. So the sky god is molesting the earth god, and there's some from a prophecy about his...
does molest the earth god.
Yeah, he does, quite literally. So the sky god is killing all the children of the earth god, because he keeps lapping them. And eventually, I think it was Kronos ends up cutting off his downstairs, and that's why the sky is up where it is, and it's not down here. That's a really bad Neckbeardia rundown of Greek mythology for you guys. There you go. Honestly, do you really need to make, see when it comes to ancient religions like Assyrian and Mesopotamian and stuff like that, I find that the gods are more like entities that need to be appeased. They're not something a modern Christian or whatever god is more like a loving character where it's something you praise and
what I love about the Greek gods is that they say, oh, it just lives on top of Mount Olympus. They could literally see the top of Mount Olympus.
I know.
Literally see it. Unless our one's
no, he's actually in the sky, guys.
He's in the sky, but he's invisible. But it's no, they live in Mount Olympus. Where, my guy?
And I've got into this argument with a few people, and they're like, oh, it would actually be really hard to climb Mount Olympus back then. Do you see the type of stuff the Greeks were building? If the Greeks really wanted to go to the top of Mount Olympus,
it doesn't matter if they could have went. They can see.
They could have done it themselves. They really could have. It's not. Look, all I'm saying, unless that goes into Tower of Babel, is it? Where everyone speaks.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's some, maybe it could be something. Maybe I'm missing something. So yeah, essentially what we've picked up is a lot of El Rapy. To make it extra
a lot of El Rapy.
But just throw it in at every possibility. Anything that needs to be done is done. In fact, El Rapy I consider is the currency, and the better you are at El Rapy, the more currency you have. Or would we call maybe is jizz like the currency?
Just cum.
Just cum. It's just cum.
Just jars of it.
Jars of cum is like bars of gold. Something like that, maybe. Oh, that would make sense. You know what? Okay, I've got this idea.
Harden it, leave it out in the sun.
No. So my idea is, so a village, the way they would get pregnant is, so all the fellows would have to be finishing up in this jar, right? And therefore...
Just in one collective jar?
Yeah, in one collective jar. And then, turkey beast that.
So massive bukkake?
Yeah, exactly.
At the local bathhouse?
Yeah, exactly. And then what goes on is, so only the strongest may live. So out of that, then no one actually knows the fathers. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know it makes sense, but it's grim derp though. Look, guys, don't judge us here. We're trying to make this as edgy as humanly possible. You guys just work with us, okay?
Blood is a liquid suffering, and suffering is life itself. It's literally impossible to survive without maiming others on a regular basis. Deaths aren't necessary since the victim's suffering at being bled sustains them for more than they lose. but it only works when it's painful. Is that not like Dark Eldar?
Yeah, you know what? How are we this far into the video and we haven't brought up Dark Eldar at this point?
The most powerful people are those who can bleed the most other people dry without losing a drop themselves, mega sadists, and those who immerse themselves in suffering until they weep a river of blood from every orifice, mega masochist.
Okay, I'm going to take this to the next level. So power plants are actually, so it's kind of like the Matrix. You need humans to power everything in this setting. Like, you know, magic, let's just say magic exists, but it can only be done by self-sacrifice. You can only do it by ritual magic, for instance, and the only way ritual magic works is with, you have to give something just as much as you're taking away from.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the more powerful the spell, the bigger the sacrifice is required. Also, I kind of like the idea of like servitors, or like every house has got like 50 sleeves to keep one light on. You know what I mean? Like they're all on treadmills, and it's like, what do you call that Black Mirror episode? Do you know the one
The one where they're underground?
Yeah, something like that maybe. But we're gonna have to make it more depressing, and one person gets a bucket of lava poured on the head
once a day.
Yeah, and it's not whoever does the fastest or the slowest. It's just completely at random.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know. But then there also will be. It's I've got it. So it's anyone who's in a certain category. So anyone that cycles the most or cycles the least, you're fine. But it's the middle ground, and no one really knows what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's completely random. And bucket of lava on head. What's worse than bucket of lava?
I know. I remember
what's
thing a while ago, whenever you like burn to death, you feel every ounce of it.
Well, eventually it does burn away the pain receptor, so it's not that bad, but it's still really bad.
Yeah.
Like as far as
what do you think's worse, burning alive or drowning?
Oh, I would take drowning easily, but I would still hate drowning. They're both horrible.
Drowning is one of my biggest fears, so absolutely.
But you're horrible. You can't swim. That's the problem.
Why are you outing me like this?
Well, I'm a very good swimmer, just so you know. Megan can't swim at all.
No, I can't swim.
Right, you slimy human maggots. We has been working hard at Neckbeardia to get the bestest little people that monies can buy. We got all the boys here. We got the boys, the lizard boys, vampire boys, all the boys over at Neckbeardia. Oh, we also got some pretty girls too. But I can't really make out which one's the boys and which one's the girls sometimes. But anyway, I need more monies to get more daggers, so get on over and order some now, you filthy pigs.
Every video that we post, we're going to be giving away all of our homebrew content to one lucky winner. Every video. All you have to do to be in with a chance to win is to be subscribed, leave a comment, and like this video. And today's lucky winner is this guy. Well done! Well done! To claim your prize, just send an email to neckbeardiacontact@gmail.com. Now let's get back to the video. I'm going to try and list everything so far, but I'm bound to miss some. The world is a byproduct of Rapy. The creator goddess committed undead when she was wrapped to become the violated earth. An expanse of flesh, blood, hair and bone crawling with horrors pouring from her wounds. The rap of women in pit, and arbitrary whims of the gods. The greatest of the gods that remain is the rapping god Moon, who caused the divine undead, and looms in the sky, which is always nighttime, to watch over the world, which he raps.
From time to time, does that know? You know what he does? I think the moon, so it's kind of like tidal waves and stuff. Maybe you have tidal waves. Maybe the odd asteroid from time to time. Maybe the moon smites. You know, from the gravitational pull. Maybe the moon pulls in asteroids to smite from time to time just for pure bant.
Yeah.
Maybe if there isn't enough sacrifice going on.
Humanity is the offspring of Rapy from the mother of men, a benevolent goddess who sought to close the wounds of the violated earth, but aroused the wrath of the root of sin, a much stronger malevolent god who was insulted by her mercy. The root of sin took the mother of men into the mutilated womb of the violated earth, where he raps her endlessly, and only stops to allow new masses of humanity to be born, naked and screaming. It's normal.
Yeah, that sounds like a normal birth, honestly.
Yes.
I don't know, like, all I'm saying is, I was there at the birth, and I'm just going to say, that was straight up traumatic, guys, not going to lie, like...
Humanity has gone extinct many times before, but is reborn to suffer. A handful of humans each generation have the essence of the root of sin in them. They are the mortal Liliri and torture and rap human, who they often rule from the open or from the shadows. Humans see everything in terms of rap, and often rap, compelled by the roots of sin, but from the mother of men in them, are equally horrified by the prospect of being rapped.
See, I think there's a big problem with this, because you're making Rapy such a common theme. I don't think it would be seen as an evil act
anymore. I don't even think it will be seen as rap.
I think it would
just think it'd be seen as normality.
Exactly. So I don't really see this as the way I look at it is like different cultures have different moralistic viewpoints, and if a whole world revolves around this,
based around it,
I don't.
It's just
is that evil anymore, or like as we said,
evil be consensual.
Like the bedbug, for instance, does the bedbug consider that evil? They've got no concept of good or evil. It's just what it's just
nature.
It just is what it is, and this kind of I think is leading itself too much into, like, is a lion evil? Or can animals be evil? I think some domesticated house cats can definitely be evil.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I consider that sort of thing a force of nature.
It's all natural instinct.
And I don't see it as evil.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this could be considered evil anymore. Like, it's grimdark for our standards, but is it to theirs? And I think you need more suffering at its core, maybe more pain and stuff. I don't know. What do you guys think? But there's way more. Let's just
way
keep
more
going.
To this. The elves were born from the horror and despair of the violated earth as she died given physical form, and witnessed the rapping god moon rise from the violated earth. This caused them to believe that the power comes from violence and violation. They immediately turned on one another in an orgy of unspeakable rap. Dark elves.
Yeah, pretty much.
And each elven mother gave birth to a swarm of monsters, each unique in its own right, but weaker than their elven ancestors, as their horror is diluted. By the time humanity was born, only the strongest of elves remained, and their species was going to go extinct. But they realised that if a human woman was wrapped and her spawn allowed to gestate long enough, it would emerge from her as a full-blooded elf. Full-blooded elves are rare because they fight each other constantly, but those that survive are extremely dangerous, immortal, and have unnatural control over the monsters of the world, which they lead to rap.
See, this could work a lot better. I feel like you need an overlord. And to create the evil, I feel like there needs to be something above.
Overbearing.
I think like hyper totalitarian, like the worst governments you can think of. Gulag times 10 type material. I like the pyramid. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The pyramid of evil, let's call it.
Despite the constant gauntlet of monstrous rap, some semblance of human society manages to exist. Led by the inbred god king, descendant of the rapping god Moon, also known as the scion of the rapping, and the bloody rock made flesh. The God Kingdom is the largest human civilization of note in the current generation. In it, rap is legal. In fact, it is the dominant currency, but other crimes are punished by the removal of the offender's eyes. If one is disrespected, brutal murder on them is considered respectable. The inbred God King sends the order of the Vestal Consensual to fight the monsters and beat back the encroaching end of human civilization. They are virgins who wear full plate armour and chastity belts or cages, and whose purity grants them strength directly proportionate to the anger of monsters and lust of men.
Okay, I think that could work. I do like the idea of the Habsburg. I do like maybe divine kings. Mm-hmm. I like I could work with that, definitely. Again, I feel like by making Rapy so common,
I think there's too much of it to where it's not.
It would unfaze you. I feel like it would divorce people from the reality of what it is. And
how horrible it is.
And by making it such a common commodity, and making it such integral to the... You know what it would be? Like, I think a good one would be, like, think of, Catholicism, drinking the body and blood of Christ. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stories about the Middle East during the Crusades, and the Muslims were terrified of Christians because they were like, they eat their God. Mm. They consume, like, during Mass. What? And I feel like people don't even really pick up on that at all. Like, it's completely forgotten about.
It's normal for us.
Exactly, people don't think about it, it's like bloody blood of Christ. It's like, yeah, okay, it's symbolic, whatever. But I don't think anyone actually picks up on it. And I feel like a Rapy in this setting would be exactly that.
Yeah.
It would be, alright, yeah,
it's
sure.
It's just the norm. It's purely the norm.
Yeah, I feel like for Greek tragedy to happen, it needs to be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And look, a good example would be, think of a mass, something big that happens in the Western world. Say someone goes ahead and commits violent acts in places of education. Mm-hmm. Is that a big good way to put it? And then the exact same happens in somewhere like, say, Africa or the Middle East. Do you care that much?
Nobody thinks.
No one cares that much. Because it happens all the time over there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking. You need something good to. Does that make sense, or am I?
No, I get it.
I don't know.
You need to have good to be able to outweigh the evil, as in
recognize
the evil.
To recognize evil, otherwise evil is just the norm, and no one really cares, and people become desensitized to it. And people, I don't think, could actually, like... Humans are extremely adaptable to a lot of situations they can find themselves in, and I feel like by creating them in this setting, they would just be like normal day-to-day stuff. Yeah. They wouldn't think anything of it at all.
If a Vestal Knight is Rap, they lose their title and are considered worthless failure. There is no law against rapping a Vestal Knight. If they were Rap, they were weak and deserved it. Fighting alongside the Vestal Knights are cutthroat mercenaries who are almost always opportunistic slavers that always keep an eye out for vulnerable people that can be sold to monsters that live in slavery or victims of monsters that can be rescued and sold into slavery again. Because the violated earth is crawling with monsters, the population of the God Kingdom lives in heavily fortified settlements which only exist for a few decades at most until they are infiltrated or betrayed from within or overwhelmed from without and wrapped into annihilation.
I mean, that's kind of what happened to any city back in the day. A good one I came across was when a city would surrender, all the loot would go to the generals, but if they chose not to surrender, all the loot would go to the soldiers. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of really brutal accounts of Romans. Like, so there's one, I can't remember the name of the city, and the city surrendered, but the soldiers weren't having that. They're like, no, we get what we get, okay? Yeah. And a lot of bad things happened, and guess what? It was a Roman city. It was in Italy, mm-hmm. You know? And so if they're willing to do this to their own people, because the soldiers that's the deal. Mm-hmm. You get the loot, you fight for it, and that's mm-hmm. what they did back then, you know?
Only refugees fleeing the threat of Rap to found new settlements prevents the settlements from running out, and in doing so, they only perpetuate the cycle of Rap. The peasants of God Kingdom live in fear and constant paranoia of Rap, so to maintain order, they maintain the culling, where councils of village elders vote on those who fail to follow the customs of their village closely enough. They are then ritualistically mutilated and banished as the culled. Very few of the culled manage to survive beyond the gate, and those that do often become horrifying beasts. Many practice the ritualistic mutilation or chastity caging of their or others' genitals in a vain attempt to prevent Rap that usually only leads to more suffering. Every now and then it works, but only often enough to continue the cycle. Lurking in the shadows of the God Kingdom are the Jest, who are black magic assassins in service of the circus, which is an assassin's guild that only answers to the Slender Man.
Oh, come on.
And a host of minor deities that may or may not be real, or may have been a joke all along. The inbred God King does not dare dismiss his court jest.
So, what I think would be very common would be female mutilation and just genital mutilation in general. I think a lot of assholes would be stitched in this setting.
I'd stitch it.
Yeah, I would stitch my bum.
I'd stitch my bum.
I think I would. I feel like the cutting out the eyes is too... It's not hard enough, and I feel like cutting out the eyes isn't a good punishment because you want people to experience more of the suffering, and removing their eyes I feel like wouldn't be a good one. I think you're better off leaving them defenseless, and I think
cutting off their hands and feet.
I would still give them the feet, because I feel like giving them the feet gives them hope that they could have gone away. Completely remove arms would be the best option, and remove teeth as well, and make them dependent on other people. But of course they're going to be banished out, so they don't have anyone.
Yeah.
But I would still let them have the necessities and give them...
That they need.
Yeah, to make it... That would be my view on it.
Just enough to be able to live.
Yeah.
But even more to suffer.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are we here
just to suffer?
I got no legs!
And my arms! Oh my god, that's great. Like, let's just keep going, guys.
Beyond the boundaries of the God Kingdom are the cities on the edge of the world that permanently seal themselves away from the outside. There has been no contact between them and the outside in multiple human extinction cycles, and as far as anyone knows, no entrance from the outside or escape from the inside. Some people think the people within live in paradise, but others suspect that they are even worse than the outside. There are also nomads, who are almost always cannibal ravers, but occasionally roving conquerors who loot and pillage for its own sake, and are often debauched enough that they wrap innocents after they eat them, instead of before.
Seasoning, man? What are you on about?
Rare settlements exist outside of the God Kingdom and are often prosperous. They are prime targets for monster hordes and the mercenary armies of the inbred God Kingdom. Werewolves exist and are considered sacred under the sight of the inbred god in the God Kingdom for their association with the rapping god Moon. Lycanthropy is spread through the transmission of saliva, and cultists who are not sanctioned by the God Kingdom but are respected by its officials infect as many people with lycanthropy as possible. They are still considered a threat and are hunted and executed because they are a possible threat to the God King's rule. During the full moon, they are driven to lunacy and rendered unconscious, killing and copulating with everything in sight, heedless of what they see. They remember everything, and no matter how they personally regret their actions, their instincts irresistibly compel them to lie and claim that they are not werewolves. When the full moon comes, the rapping god Moon brings down lunar rain, a greasy, slippery fluid that floods the earth and affects those who touch it with lycanthropy. It is often absorbed by the violated earth, but new horrible monsters crawl from the pits where it's pulled months later.
See, again, I would feel like werewolves and stuff should be more rare, and I feel like it should be... I feel like infecting as many people as possible, you're turning them from prey into predators, and I feel like if you want to make it more...
This is just all literally, well, without the aspect of a rap, but it's all sounding like Halloween Town from Nightmare Before Christmas, but with like everybody just raps each other.
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas, but more El Rapy, pretty much. But I feel like I would tone back on that. I feel like you don't want more predators, you want more prey.
Yeah.
You need more people to be defenseless and weak and completely hopeless. I feel like you need to put in more hope into the setting for suffering to be true, because if people just accept a lot in life, then I feel like that's not true suffering. I think true suffering is stamping out that hope. Is that a better way of putting it? I don't know, maybe. But again, this is grim derp. So again, maybe that's what they're aiming for, so I suppose that makes sense.
Magic consists of burning the essence of suffering to wrap creation into doing what the burner wants it to do. It is extremely painful and ruinously damaging to the health of the ones losing themselves. It is also more efficient when the suffering of another is used. Sufferings can be stored for later, very efficient, and most that use magic from their own suffering without hurting others prefer to cut themselves and drown in their despair. Channeling large quantities of magic causes one's eyes to glow a colour that depends on the ruler's mental state.
Wait, this is Monsters Inc. now? Being able to store it for later?
Yeah.
This is Monsters Inc. Tell me it's not Monsters Inc.
I want to know the colour of the eyes thing.
Okay, let's keep going.
Though due to its nature, it's rarely anything but red, purple or black. There are rumours of orange, and yellow is regarded as a myth. Those who sell their souls to the rapping moon to work as a torturer instead of being tortured are given the ability to draw on the suffering of the afterlife instead of their own magic, giving them monstrous, easily used powers with caveat that they must either pay it back twofold or amuse the rapping moon enough that he doesn't mind the loss. Using it to rap almost always does the trick. Orcs are soulless war machines who crawl from their spawning pits fully grown, born for conquest and screaming in hate and rage. Their every thought is malice, and an orc knows no peace, save through a moment's catharsis and slaughter. The reason for this is that they have an instinctive revulsion for creation and believe it must be burned and all things within it scourged. They are the only monsters in creation that does not rap. They only kill as quickly and painlessly as possible before burning the bodies into scattered ashes that cannot be rapped, and for that, they are considered anathema. Consensual sex is rare, and almost as much of a taboo as homosexuality in ye olde England in some regions. Or
see, again, no, that's making it, then because you're making LAP the norm, it is the norm, and therefore it's not evil anymore.
And you're making consensual sex like LAP.
Yeah, so it's you've just flipped one for the other, and I don't think it's evil anymore.
I know.
Does that make any weird sense? You've made LAP not evil in your setting. How did you
do this?
Yeah.
Normally, giving in to one's rapist is seen as the equivalent to consent, but where genuine consent is rare and uncommonly accepted in polite company, genuine, mutual, heartfelt marriage between two individuals who love each other invokes a beacon to monsters, the intensity of which is directly dependent on the strength of their love.
Oh, okay, that works actually. Yeah, so I would just remove the LAP. I would take away a lot of the LAP parts of it all. But I do think I like this idea where this summons demons and monsters and all sorts. Kind of like the warp, but like Skaneshi.
If virginity is lost on a wedding night during a new moon, while holding hand, for the sole purpose of procreation under the blankets with the candle lights turned off, it is said to produce such hate from the root of sin that arch-fiends will erupt from the nearest chasm and seek their soul. The intensity of this is lessened for every additional spouse after the first, and the reduction of intimacy likewise reduces the danger, leading some communities to practice arranged marriages specifically between those who disdain each other, as well as mass polygamy bordering on rap. This is done because despite the rapping godmoon's ire, it is said that humans born out of the bounds of rap have a stronger likelihood of joining the Vestal Night, and fulfilling the desire of, for most, enriching the ones who sired them, but for a few, protecting those who need their aid.
All those moments will be lost in time.